This passage is about, people who are wrecked on an uninhabited island, and then what they would do according to their level of education, according to their level of thinking, and so forth. That is the past all about. There could be a shoemaker, there could be educated people, there could be what you call some other person, who is farming, etc. So there different people would be doing different kinds of work. That is what he says. But then he says sometimes there's a problem with the secrecy and there may be suspicions. So the first one, when a dozen men are cast away on an imaginary island, the best educated would look for metals and rocks because he is suited for such work. You have the answer, in the fourth line. The best educated to look for iron or lead in the rocks and to plan channels for the irrigations of the field. They would do that with the metal. The other three options are incorrect. So the answer is number 4. He is suited for such work. They would possibly use those metals, he points out in the passage, they would use these metals, possibly for planning channels for the irrigations of the field. Take the next sentence. The author states that any appearance of secrecy or separateness would instantly and justly be looked upon with suspicion. From the statement, we may infer that the answer is number 3. It is natural to be suspicious of secrecy. If you read the entire passage, and if you find, he points out very clearly in the course of the passage, he's talking about the man, the shoemaker, and he talks about what he call some other people. And he points out that possibly that he didn't want to see them how there was of it, and that he meant to ask them more corn and potatoes in exchange for his sandal than the trouble of making them deserved. This shows that they might get, it's natural for them to get suspicious if somebody were, secretive in his work or in his job. He points out very clearly there, for instance, the scientific man were to found to have gone out at night unknown to the rest to alter the sluices. The others would think and probably rightly think that he wanted to get the best supply for his water to his own field. And so there is an element of suspicion involved if there is some kind of secrecy. So the correct answer is number 3. Okay, I just read out a passage to you about the shoemaker asking for more corn and potatoes. The instance of the shoemaker who refuses to show his source and asks for more corn and potatoes is an example of what? Unfair practice. No, it's not a system of barter. He's asking for more. That is an unfair practice. Is that clear? It's not a bargain. It's not a system of barter. He's not trying to make trouble. But maybe at some level he is maintaining some kind of possibly some kind of secrecy, and others might think that he is practicing that and he demands more, and that would be an example of unfair practice. The next one, according to the author, whatever one's work might be, yes, when you read the entire passage, he may not have stated in the passage, but then you have got to infer it, you have to conclude. And when you read the entire passage, one thing is clear, that hardships are going to be a part of it. Whatever one's work might be, hardships are going to be a part of it. One cannot keep complaining. One should expect others to assure of help and advance our labors. One must offer help to others in order to receive help. These things are not clearly mentioned in the passage, or they cannot be derived from the passage, that one cannot keep complaining, one should expect others to assure of help and advance our labor. No, they may not be clearly mentioned, but you can conclude upon this point that whatever one's work might be, difficulties, hardships, are a part of that work. So the answer is number 1. If you read the passage closely, meticulously, the author's belief is that for progress to happen, do you think that the team should have multiple talents? Cooperation among their team members is essential. One must deal with those who are secretive. Transparency among them, on all concerned, is mandatory. I think the answer is number 4, because number 4 subsumes within it what has been stated in number 1, 2, and 3. Right? You see, when you say transparency among all concerned is mandatory, that means the team may have people with multiple talents, right? And there may be cooperation among the team members, you see, and they may be maintaining secrecy. But then, if they were to what you call maintain transparency, that would be really good. The last one, the writer makes a hypothesis which can be related to what you call communities in general. You see, it might be about an imaginary island rich with resources. It can be an ideal world of talented people. It is not an ideal world of talented people, because you have a sprinkling of all kinds of people there. A primitive and unsophisticated world, no. You have even educated people there. So the hypothesis is related to communities in general, even if they are not shipwrecked, you see, if they are living in a society, you see, how do they go about their tasks, their different work? So the answer is number 1. Well, this passage is all about, you see, the gender differences and a debate over the idea whether it is correct that that man's brain are differently wired from women's brain, and women are more intelligent or less intelligent than men are. This is a debate, you see, or a myth that is involved here. And it talks about the research of a British professor of cognitive neuroimaging, right? So let us see what are the questions, you see, that are put up. The first one says, the research of a British professor of cognitive neuroimaging has succeeded in establishing that what has it succeeded? The potential of a human brain is not directly linked to gender. You see, it has nothing to do with gender, the power, the potential of the human brain. They are not related to gender. So the answer is number 4. You can see in number 2, her conclusive, the last lines of number 2 paragraph, her conclusive findings establish that no brain differences can be found that are solely gender related. Okay, so the answer is number 4. Take the next question. By referring to the word as gendered, the writer wants to convey what? He wants to convey the fact that society continues to be fixated on gender stereotypes, right? That is, society believes in gendered identities and gendered, you see, brain. You can see that in this paragraph, the second sentence of the first paragraph, stereotypes pertaining to male superiority and female submissiveness could be traced to early ages where assigned roles were needed as survival measures. But can we today see a swing away from these stereotypes, or have they established a stranglehold on our perception? In this gendered world, we continue to live with notions and so on and so forth. The society is fixated on gender stereotypes. So number 2 is the correct answer. The next one of the dangers in adopting a binary view of the human brain is that it can promote the notion of feminine and masculine traits. You see, she talks about that in paragraph number 2, the last few lines. If you keep a binary view, then that binary view would promote the notion of feminine and masculine traits. We have to get rid of that binary view. We'll have to just treat the brain as something which has nothing to do with the gender. Right? The idea is the gendered view promotes, you see, feminine and masculine traits. So therefore, we must not encourage a binary view of the human brain. The moment you talk about the binary view, then you will talk about what you call the differences in the male and the female, what you call, brain. And that is what she's against. So the answer is number 1. The last question, the writer of this passage wants to emphasize the need to use new insights provided by scientific research for a better understanding of human abilities. That is what the entire passage talks about. The others won't fit in. right? The others won't fit in. Continuously debate issues of gender differences, question the findings of scientific inquiries, accept gender differences as essential. No, what she is talking about is the new insights provided by scientific research for a better understanding of human abilities. And this, you can see, is reflected in the entire theme of the passage. The entire theme of the passage is a protest against gendered identities and gendered brains within quotes, right? Answer is number one. The next question, the synonym for stranglehold is overwhelming control, right? Yeah, that is the correct answer. Overwhelming control. The next question, the antonym for unbounded. Unbounded is unlimited, so therefore the antonym, the opposite, would be restricted. Is that clear? Restricted. Number 3 is the correct answer. Which talks about John Muir, Earth, Planet, Universe. You see, and it's about a person, you see, who's extremely interested and absorbed, you see, in studying botany, you see. And he's been working on botany in spite of the injury to his eyes and, you see, discomfiture in the body, and whatever we have information is from his notebook. Okay, the notebook seems to be an essential part here, because the second paragraph, on these expeditions he had disciplined himself to endure hardship, for his notebooks disclose the fact that he often went hungry and slept in the woods. The notebook, you see, happens to be a very important item in what you call unraveling the adventurism or adventure of John Muir. Okay, so let us look at this question. John Muir, Earth, Planet, Universe. Muir wrote this in his notebook because, why did he write this? Earth, Planet, Universe. His love for botany went beyond borders. That is why he wrote No Limits. So the answer is number 3. Now, he did not have a permanent address, or he wanted to be a traveler, he wanted to live in open life. No, that is all nonsense. The answer is number 3. His love for botany went beyond borders. And you can see that from the passage for yourself. Take the next question. Which of these did John Muir have no great difficulty in doing? That is finding food among the farmers. That you can see that in what you call the third paragraph of the comprehension passage, where he says, but usually I had no great difficulty in finding a loaf of bread in the widely scattered clearings of the farmers. With one of these big backwoods loaves, I was able to wander many a long wild mile. He had no difficulty in finding it. Now, eating regularly every day is non-specific. Sleeping without blankets on certain nights and chasing wolves that howl through the nights, they are incorrect. Number 1 is the correct answer. That he had no difficulty in finding food among the farmers. Right? How did the experience with nature affect John Muir? He felt spiritually fulfilled. Number 1 is the correct answer, and you have that in the third paragraph, the last few lines, right? The third paragraph, 1, 2, 3, the last few lines. What does he say? He says, and feeding on God's abounding, God's plenty, inexhaustible spiritual beauty bread, right? And in one of his wanderings, he says, the deep peace of the wilderness savagely broken. It happened in the maple woods about midnight when I was cold and my fire was low. He felt spiritually fulfilled. That is why he talks about, you see, being free as the wind in the glorious forests and bogs, gathering plants and feeding on God's abounding, inexhaustible spiritual beauty bread. That's a metaphor that he uses here. The next question, according to the passage, in what way was Muir affected by his injury? Well, the answer is number 3. His eyesight was affected, but he was able to carry on, right? That is the correct answer. You can look into the passage and you will find that there. His eyesight was affected, but he was able to carry on. That is the correct answer. The next question. When Muir said that he botanized, he meant that, what did he mean by that? He meant he studied plants in their natural habitat. That is the correct answer, number two. Number two. The others studied plants and made notes on them, studied plants during his exploration, studied plants and classified them. No, he studied plants in their natural habitat. He was wandering, you see, at different places and studying plants. And that is why we have got to be more specific and say that he studied plants in their natural habitat. That is what we have to look for the specific answer. You see, this word botanized is a special word, a specific word here, right? So number two is the correct answer. The last question. Which of these sentences is not true? That is, which one of these sentences is false? John Moore explored several new places even on his way home. That is true. There was a cloud over the landscape he traveled. No, that is not true. And that is the answer. Number two is the answer. Because if you look at the last lines of the last paragraph, what does he say here? To me, all plants are more precious than before. My poor eyes, not better, not worse. A cloud is over it. The cloud is over it. But in gazing over the widest landscape, I am not always sensible of its presence. So he's not talking about a clouded landscape. He's talking about an eye which is a little which has a little cloud over it, which is a little blurred. So number two is the answer. It is an incorrect sentence in the sense it's not to be found in the passage. He was committed to being a botanist more than ever. That is true. He recorded his adventures in the notebook. That's also true. The writer of the passage suggests. What does he suggest? Well, the answer is number D. He suggests as times have changed, the basis of education has expanded. Because once upon a time, you see, there was only what you call rhetoric and other kinds of logic, you see, students were trained in, you see, in ancient Rome and Greece. But now the things are different because the basis of education has expanded. You have got so many things in education, including social media. So the correct answer is number D. Take the next question. The passage points out an important difference between traditional media and social media is that. The difference is number B. That is, traditional media tries to present different points of view. You see, that is the point he's trying to make, because social media, it might reach more people and but it's not balanced, you see. It's not balanced because social media, when you see some groups or some person may subscribe to a particular ideology or a particular point of view, and he may tell lies, he may or she may well spread fake news or lies, and they want you to subscribe to their views, and unwittingly, unknowingly, people do what you call agree with what is on the social media without inquiring into the authenticity of the news. So, what is the difference between traditional media? The traditional media, he says, would present both sides of the coin, right? The print media, most of the time, even now today, you can, if you read the print media or the what you call the editorials, you'll find that the editor tries to present as far as possible a balanced view. You see both sides of the coin. So the answer is number B. The next question, social media is dangerous in its ability to influence opinion and readers through the point just I made. That is, its ability to guide the reader to motivated conclusions, right? It's in ways, you see, it's biased and prejudiced, and it might motivate the reader to, agree with the conclusions, it has made. You have the word vested interest. Vested interest is, of course, self-serving intentions. That's a very common phrase. You say politicians or some X, Y, Z are working, for their vested interest. That is their self-serving intentions. The answer is C. The antonym for spurious is what you call genuine, right? Spurious is something dubious, something fake, something false, something fraudulent. Okay? And the opposite of spurious would be genuine. The answer is number D. The writer of the passage calls social media the present-day version of the Roman Forum because it is a space for what? Spreading spurious arguments, right? It's a little ironical because once upon a time logic and rhetoric were taught so that the students are able to recognize spurious arguments. Now, this is ironical that the present-day version, you see, has itself become a receptacle for spreading spurious arguments. The answer is number D.